This is the Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumours talk show on podcast. I'm really glad you're
Yes.
going to tell us about your story. So tell us about when you were diagnosed. What were your symptoms that made you think, I need to go to the doctor?
Actually, a funny story. It wasn't from symptoms that I went to the doctor and I got diagnosed from. I was completely asymptomatic. My brain tumor was actually discovered through what I call a blessing in disguise. I was on a mountain biking ride, and at the end of that ride, I decided to take a road gap, and that road gap did not end well for me, and I landed on my head and I bruised my pelvis and I couldn't walk. So I had to get airlifted to a local hospital, and that's when they gave me a full body CT scan and noticed that I had a golf ball sized mass in my brain. I was diagnosed January 16th in 2017 is the date that everything flipped upside down
Mm.
on its head.
Do they think in any of that was to do with it in terms of your balance or anything, or it was just by complete chance that this was picked up?
They had speculations that it could've, but I assured them that it wasn't from that.
Mm.
I told them that I was completely able to, like, do everything on the bike, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't from this like, it wasn't any symptoms.
When they took you to the hospital, were you on your own or did you have a friend that you were bicycling with?
So when I was first taken to the hospital, I was actually airlifted.
Mm.
They took me via helicopter, so there was only one person with me, and that was the medic on the helicopter.
How did you get the help you needed?
Yeah. So my mother, she worked for the fire authority at the time, and she knew I was hurt, and she called in and said, "Make sure it's like one of our helicopters that help him."
Wow.
And we called for the helicopter to come pick me up, and that's how I got picked up.
Wow. That's good to have a mum with that kind of connection.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, to have that kind of mum, I need you. And then super mum comes in, sends in everyone you need.
Exactly, yeah.
So what happened next?
So what happened next was I was 17 years old, so I was still a minor, and they only told my parents they found a mass in my brain, and I was not informed at all. They took me down for another session of MRIs and testing, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, this is weird. I don't know why I'm going down, but they took me down, gave me an MRI, and that's when the MRI confirmed their beliefs of a brain tumor. The type of brain tumor that I had was a ganglioglioma, a
Mhm.
very rare type of glioma, the size of a golf ball, between my cerebellum and brainstem. And after that, then they told me. Till now, since 2017, I've had 17 surgeries. 10 of them were brain surgeries. 2 of them were kidney surgeries. 2 of them were facial reconstruction surgeries. One of them was an eye surgery. One of them wasn't really a surgery, but I count it as a surgery. It was just my wisdom teeth. I got those removed. Oh, sorry. 3 of them were kidney surgeries. I forgot I had a kidney surgery recently.
I saw you had meningitis.
Yeah, so the bacterial meningitis came from the first surgery, and that caused my hydrocephalus.
Uh,
So I didn't naturally get hydrocephalus. I got it through the bacterial meningitis. I basically had to battle back from that.
When was it you had the 2 surgeries for your face, reconstructions? How did that conversation come about?
I had a stroke in one of my surgeries, actually, and that is where I got right side weakness. The right side of my face was paralyzed because of that. At that point, it was pretty easy for me to decide whether to do it or not. I was at the point of I'm already at 13 surgeries. What's one more? And I know that's not really the best attitude to have when coming to surgery, but I was like, I've done this 13 other times, they've all gone pretty well, I might as well do another one. It can't really hurt me. I can't go downhill from here. I've basically already hit my low point, and I can't get any lower. And the facial reconstruction surgery came actually a year after this whole medical storm, and it came on December 4th of 2019. That's when the first surgery came from. I met a not a neurosurgeon. I met a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. His name is Dr. Babek Azizadeh, and he does absolute wonders. My face, I went in paralyzed, and right now I have about 20-25% movement, and that is just 2 years out of my last facial reconstruction surgery, so it's doing pretty well. It's a slow process, but it's working.
Yeah. What are they using then to do that? Are they just putting electrics to trying to get the reactions from your nerves? What do they do to do that?
Yeah, so the stuff that makes up the facial reconstruction surgeries they actually connect various nerves. So he connected a nerve out of my neck into my face into there's a center where the nerves meet, and he connected that for the animation of it and, like, to get it stimulating. He also took a nerve out of my ankle and grafted it all the way across my face from one nerve center to the other, and he just connected the nerves, and it's basically just, like, working excuse me. For example, say you have an extension cord, and it has 2 power sources, and one of those power sources go out. One power source is still going to carry the power to the other one, it's just not gonna be as strong, and that's how it is with my nerves. It's still gonna carry over animation and stimulation to one side, it's just not going to be as strong as it's coming from one side.
Mm. So it's nice to know that they feel this is still gonna progress. It's just it's a long process, but it's not a that's it. When was it you had more surgeries?
So I have a VP shunt, a ventriculoperitoneal,
Had
reading
the
it, so
shunt. Are you aware of having that?
besides the bump on my head, no.
Mm.
I'm not aware at all. I used to be able to hear it draining. I don't
Yeah.
I doctor said, "Oh, you're just thinking you're hearing it," but I used to be able to hear it, and it was a very weird kind of part of my life where I could hear the shunt draining,
Mm.
but now I don't feel it, don't hear it. I just feel like the bump on my head, but for the most part, I don't even know it's there.
And they say that can stay there forever, or do they have to do a change at some point in 10 years, 20 years' time, or that can just stay there now?
No, it could stay there forever as long as I don't grow. So most of the time when they put shunts in little kids, they put it into the size of their body, and when they grow, they have to replace, like, the tubing and everything, so
Oh.
they have to do revisions on that shunt, and it basically just goes until they stop growing. But since I was already pretty much full grown when this happened, I don't have to get a revision done, so my shunt is just there.
Did you f when you left the hospital originally, were you given loads of suggestions for help you might need with, or did they have to go and do all the research themselves? Maybe you might not remember originally when you happened because it was a long time ago, but did you find that you were constantly given support as, "Try this now," or "Go here if you need a bit of help with physiotherapy," or something? Did they have that, or did they have to do all the research themselves?
Yeah, it was a trial and error thing as well. That's one of the reasons actually I made my website was for people who are going through similar to what I went through. The website is there to help other parents out, to help other survivors out, and know what worked for me. So it guides them on a path that is easier than what the doctors tell you. Because some of the things that I did, they were not recommended and they worked really well for me. So you just got to keep an open mind when it comes to everything as well. But yeah, when I left the hospital, when I was released, the doctors gave me like a path I should be on, but they didn't tell me how to achieve it. My parents, they had to do research on how to do this, on how to do that, and I had to do research as well to see what would it work best for me.
Mm. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget how our parents do help so much at the beginning because you feel like you take it for granted, don't you? Because you're like, they're our parents, they're going to do it. But actually, they have to go through an awful lot to fix everything for us because we're not doing anything. We're just trying to get better. But yeah,
Mhm.
it sounds like you have
Yeah.
a very supportive, loving family. It's nice.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm very lucky and blessed that I have a family this good.
Mm. Something we haven't really said is you share videos, you do the mountain bicycling, which I have to say is very brave.
Yeah, it takes a pretty extreme focus to
Yeah.
be able to ride trails near the edge. You gotta focus on where you're going. You can't focus on the view, even though the view is breathtaking. It's hard, but once you can get it down, it becomes really fun.
Is it a good distraction?
Yeah, so during mountain biking and when I'm going downhill, you can't really think of other things. Like you said, you've gotta focus pretty much on the trail. I have in the past thought of other things while doing it, and that just puts you on autopilot. And usually when you're on autopilot, you crash because you have to be very focused when you're mountain biking, and it's just not a good way to go down a trail.
Yeah, it keeps you focused and just take you away from anything else and just be something you really enjoy.
Yes, I really enjoy it.
With yeah. How are you coping with writing?
What do you do to help with
With your vision?
The brain is very magnificent and it heals in very mysterious ways. So right now with my double vision, I can use the vision in one of my eyes. Just use that like direct vision, but ignore the direct vision out of my other eye, but use all the auxiliary uses, so like peripheral vision, field of view, like depth perception. I can use all of that in my other in both eyes, but I block out the image to one of my eyes. So I'm basically seeing one with kind of just the other image in like the background that I completely ignore. And how I got to that place was so for instance, I use my left eye and my right eye I ignore, but it happened through a process of physical therapy and over time. And in the right eye, I had a piece of tape that would block my vision and it would just get smaller and smaller little by little. And eventually I would not have any tape and I'd be able to just see quote unquote one. Sometimes my right eye does go lazy, so it does look a bit weird sometimes, but for the most part, I'm looking
straight
pretty
on?
solid.
How do you focus if you've got one eye playing up, you've got one day where it's being worse than another?
It's the same as I just deal with my double vision. I ignore it.
Mm.
There's not really any magical solution to
Do you
it.
put a patch or something just so it's not distracting you?
No, I wear glasses right now. There's nothing blocking that vision. I just ignore it. And at first, I was wearing a patch
Mm.
to stop it from bothering me. And then I moved on to the glasses with tape, and the tape would just get smaller. And by that time, I trained my eyes to basically, uh,
You don't come across like you put down by these things. I don't know if you are and you're just able to mask it, but you seem like you make the most of what's going on and you don't allow it to get you down. How do you do that?
I take it as my motto. I've taken a really negative, tragic event and I've turned it into this really positive event.
Mm.
And I don't want to dwell too much on the negative, and I
Yeah.
want to stay on the positive.
Yeah. Tell us about your website.
Tumour Warrior 67. I was trying to figure out what the 67 was, and I was thinking maybe because you used to do American football, I was thinking, was it your number?
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Ah,
That's what it is. That was my football number for my high school and my college. Right now, I'm in my final year of college. I coach American football now
oh, wow.
for one of the high schools down by us.
That's really great. I have a lot of respect for people that have that kind of drive.
Thank you.
So, if we go back to when you got first diagnosed, you're 17, you're having fun, you're going out with your friends. What was that like
For you not being able to do that.
I was coming off one of the best years of my life. Everything in my life started to align and go in the right direction, or what I thought was the right direction. And just to get sideswiped by getting diagnosed, that really took a toll on me. And it was weird because when I first got diagnosed, earlier I didn't answer about the surgery. They immediately did want to do surgery because of the size. The neurosurgeon that did it wasn't gonna be in town the next week, and he wanted to make sure that I was okay. So he postponed the surgery to a week after. I basically was in the hospital on a Monday, got discharged on a Tuesday, and my surgery was the following Monday. So I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday
to
to
think
do,
about? Mm.
like, or just don't push yourself, kind of an active kid, but just don't go too far with it. So I stayed home the first day and I was just absolutely miserable. So I went to school and everyone was like, wait, shouldn't you be in the hospital? What are you doing out? And I was at school, I was learning, I was just doing normal stuff because I never thought of it as something different. I
Mm.
never thought of what's going to happen. I was just like, I got to be at school.
Mm.
So then I had my surgeries. And I did physical therapy, but when I was in the hospital, I was just trying to get from day to day, trying to get to the next day and get to the next day.
What was it like for your family?
I would say it was probably very hard on them. They had a schedule where my dad would visit me at night because he was the only one who could pick me up, lug me around. I'm the only one in my family over 6 foot. Everyone else is under 5'5". There's also a bigger weight difference because I was lineman for high school football and college football. The weight difference was big and the height difference. So I was a bigger kid. My dad would try to lug me around because he could pick me up and lug me around. So that's why he stayed with me at night.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very stressful time when this happens. I know parents, they want to be able to take this away. My mom, she told me all the time, "I wish I could help you. I want to take this away." But I just know that parents, they're not fighting this battle. It's the kid fighting the battle. And it's very hard, but you just have to understand that it'll all work itself out the way that you want it to work out, whether you like the outcome or not. There's a reason for everything.
How did your
Mhm.
friends react to everything?
What I've noticed is people come and go. People are there when you're in tough times. People are only there when you're in good times. And people will come in and out of your life during this time. And I had people who I've never even spoke to come speak to me after I had diagnosis. I've had people who I know just push themselves away from me. And it's a very weird time, but people just come and go. It's like the ocean. It's push and pull. It just goes and comes and it's very weird.
Are there any things that have made you laugh in hospital?
So I was in a pediatric hospital and when I woke up from my first surgery, they asked me, "Do you need to go to the restroom?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I actually do." And they bring out this little portable,
Mm.
like, bucket thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's about the size of a bowl. I'm 6 foot. I'm a pretty big guy, so they brought out this tiny little portable bucket, and I sit on it, and I just look over at my nurse, and I'm like, "Yo, like, Code Brown, we need a bigger bucket. And then also another one was my hallucinations. I started sundowning off of a medication called Dilaudid, which is a very strong narcotic. And they said, if you want to go home, you're going to have to be off this medication. So I was on it. I was on a very strong narcotic. And right then and there, I went cold turkey and stopped. And that caused me to hallucinate. And my hallucinations went from we're in a dystopian society, like the Hunger Games, people are hiding everywhere, to next door is a gym, to people are just jumping off the roof, to if there is an 80s party, and then I wake up and I'm in a video game and I just rip my IV out and I leave.
Oh, no.
Well, I still think that it's very funny, but other people probably don't think that.
I don't understand how you would
Mhm.
ever fit the length of the hospital bed, because I'm 5'11" and my feet were always out the end of the bed. Like they were never covered by, they got so cold. And I'm thinking, how did you fit in the hospital bed?
Yeah, it was a pediatric
Oh
hospital,
gosh.
so everything was small,
Oh no.
but luckily they had a regular hospital across the street, so they literally would bring everything up from that side of the hospital for me. So if I needed like a bed, they would bring a bed from that side of the hospital over, and then they would have to put a bed extender on the end of the bed. So it was just
You're
yeah, it
like,
was just
at least they did that. Can
like
you imagine? I just have a vision. Do you ever watch Elf at Christmas?
yes,
And
I
when he
watch it.
can't, and when he's in with the elves, and then he can't, he's massive in the beds and everything. I just visualize like in being in a children's hospital, he'd be just popping out
Yeah,
everywhere.
that's basically how it was. Everyone's
Small.
super small, and then there's just me. And everyone like, even when so they had a couple events where kids would be able to go down and mingle with each other and do these events, and there was nothing else for me to do, so I would go down to these events, and they would all just be looking at me like, "This is a big dude." Like, they would meet me for the first time, just look at me like they're looking at, like, a giant, just looking up there, just, "Whoa."
That's funny. When you left the hospital originally, were you given loads of suggestions for help you might need?
When I was released, the doctors gave me, like, a path I should be on, but they didn't tell me how to achieve it. My parents, they had to do research on how to do this, on how to do that, and I had to do research as well to see what would work best for me.
Mm. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget how our parents do help so much at the beginning, because you feel like you take it for granted, don't you? Because you're like, they're our parents, they're going to do it. But actually, they have to go through an awful lot to fix everything for us, because we're not doing anything. We're just trying to get better. Sounds like you have
Yeah.
a very supportive, loving family. It's nice.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and blessed that I have a family this good.
What is your end goal?
My goal is I'd like to connect with other survivors, people going through it, the parents of the people going through it, and I'd really just like to help and give them a nice, inspiring message and something that they can look forward to, because when they're in the hospital or things are not looking good for them, they could go to that dark place. But if they hear my story and they hear what a really good outcome can be like, they will have something to look forward to. Because when you're in that hospital, you have nothing to look forward to. You're just, what do I do? So if I give them a very inspiring message and like hope, then they have something to look forward to. They don't just fold and be like, I've got this. I can't do anything about that. So just that inspiring message. I do want to share one thing
Mhm.
with listeners and with people who are going through tough times. And that is, I know there's the cliche of never give up. And that is one thing that did help me. But there's also another thing that I want to share, and that is the analogy of the storm. Now, when you have a storm, it's coming at you. You can tell there's going to be a storm coming, and you know it's going to be destructive, and it's going to lead to a lot of destruction. And you have a couple choices to like either go through it or either run away from it, but eventually it will catch up with you. And that is how you've got to look at life and look at problems in life and look at brain tumor diagnoses, cancer diagnosis. You've got to look at it that way of it's a storm. It's going to come, it's going to be destructive. But there's also one thing that will happen with the storm, and that is the fact that it will be over one day. And what you've got to do is when that storm comes at you is you've just got to go through it because it will catch up to you. Say, for instance, you have cancer, oh yeah, and you run away from it, it will catch up to you. So you've got to just go through it. And when you're going through it, it will be dark, it will be disruptive, it will be chaotic, and it will look very bad. And it will look like, oh, there's no hope, there's no end. But what you've got to realize is it will blow over, the storm will eventually pass. And once that storm ends, you know, the feeling of everything is just calm. There's a peacefulness that happens. And that is how, when things overhead and problems that you have go over, they they pass, there is this peacefulness, this calmness. But also, the things that it destroyed is there is a rebuilding, there is growth, there is just this serenity of beautifulness that comes out of this storm. And you've just got to know that once it passes, there will be rebuilding, there will be this calmness, this peacefulness, and you will be better off than where you started. And you've just got to embrace that.
That's really lovely. Is there anything you want to say to your mum or your dad?
I truly love my parents for what they've done. I thank them to the utmost thankfulness I can give them. I really wouldn't be here without them. I know that I'm like, oh, I fought through this, like I'm all this toughness, but in reality, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
They advocated so hard. They pushed really hard to get certain things done, and they truly worked as any father, any mother could work, and I'm really thankful for that.
Thank you very much for sharing your story and for coming on.
Yep, no problem. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye.
This is the Aunty and Brain Tumors talk show. It's a show full of informative chat and inspirational messages. The Aunty and Brain Tumors talk show on podcast.